Thank you and welcome. Today is Thursday, November 20th, 2025. It is 3 p.m. We are at 19 Parnell Street, the Township of Greater Madawaska. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 3 p.m. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the November 20th, 2025 regular council meeting at 3 p.m.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp and Councillor Levesque. I got you both in there because sometimes there's time delay and I might miss you later on, so I want to make sure I got you right away. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Please stand for O Canada if you can. That we are meeting on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We'd like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We'd also like to thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Thank you, Miigwech. I would ask the people that are gathered in the chambers today, just make sure you turn your cell phones off, please. Thank you. And we'll move on to 4.1, the approval of agenda. Resolution, please.
That the agenda of the council meeting of November 20th, 2025 be approved as presented.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Popke. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to 5.1, approval of minutes. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the following minutes are approved by council: October 16th, 2025 regular council and November 6th, 2025 special council.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Levesque. All in favor? Thank you. So carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof?
No.
There is none seen. Thank you. Short mayor's report. Since our last meeting, I have represented the township at 10 county council meetings. I've been to 4 community events, and one in particular was on Sunday the 9th was our Remembrance Day in Calabogie. It was a great turnout, as always, and I just want to make special mention to Mr. John Watts, who once again put it all together for us. And John is a retired commander in the Canadian military, and John does a great job every year for us. And I just wanted to say thank you to John and his family for doing this, because I know it's a one-day event or an hour event for us. John, it's a lifetime, and I just want to thank him for that. So thank you. That concludes my mayor's report. We'll now move on to 8.1. Facilities and Environment Department bylaw 60-2025 Blue Box Operations Agreement, and bylaw 612025 Master Service Contract Agreement with Miller Waste Inc. Resolution, please.
That council approves bylaw 60-2025 being a bylaw to enter into a Blue Box Depot operations agreement with Circular Materials to provide Blue Box services to townships depots, and that council approved bylaw 61-2025 being a bylaw to enter into a master services subcontract agreement and the statement of work of services related to the Blue Box material with Miller Waste Systems, Inc. for the period of January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2032, and that council authorized the CAO to execute the Blue Box operations agreement with Circular Materials, and that council authorized the CAO to execute the master services subcontract agreement and the statement of work with Miller Waste Systems, Inc.
Thank you. Do we have a mover to get it on the table? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Levesque. Background, please.
So this would be the extension or I guess, the separate agreement with Circular Materials for January 1st, 2026 is the first part. So in 2024, at the end of 2024, council would approve the agreement with Circular Materials to begin in July 1st, 2025 to December 31st. So it's just a 6-month agreement for hauling. This one is the extended agreement. And then the other agreement that's being added here is with Miller Waste Systems, and that's for the haul of the residential blue box materials to the recycling facility in our catchment area. So this is an addition. What this addition does for us too is an additional revenue for those services. And then so what do I have here? Yeah, so the agreements, we've passed them through legal. They're very generic. The municipalities are adopting them across the province. So they are as is, and I'm open to answer questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from Councillor? Councillor Thompson.
Where the contract is for maintaining the current level of service, right?
That is correct.
So what would happen, this is for 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. So what would happen if in that, as a result of some of our planning, we decide we can go to curbside pickup, say in the villages? How does that take into account?
The agreement would have an out clause to adjust to that. So that's intended based on services today. If there was an adjustment to services, that would be adjusted accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns from council? There are none seen. We'll call for the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. So carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to section 9.1, communications and engagement strategy. Resolution, please.
That council adopt the Township of Greater Madawaska communication and engagement strategy as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a mover to get it on the table? Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Thompson. Background, please.
So this would be our first communication and engagement strategy. Earlier this year, we adopted a policy that was more about the framework around how we communicate. This is more about actionable items. We surveyed residents in 2024 and received some feedback there where we've been adjusting to. Now we feel like we're in a position to have more of a plan, and then this plan can be adjusted annually based on feedback we receive. So this strategy was specifically developed based off of what we've heard through the strategic plan process, as well as feedback day-to-day in the office from residents through our community groups and through the 2025 survey. As you can see, there's 71% of the respondents feel that communication has improved, and 66% were satisfied with the overall communication. What we continue to hear is that there's a lot of parts of our community that do not have internet or are not online, so that communication we need to increase. We've seen some increase in communication through the groups, like, the Seniors Active Living Center is a big one where it's moving across the community. The program coordinator is connecting with people there. So that's more of that word of mouth communication that's really coming to light. So the communication strategy here is intended to kind of work through those opportunities more, having more sessions. And then we've talked about the opportunity of having monthly newsletters. Some are really requesting a newsletter to be emailed monthly with all of the information rather than periodic information. So there's an opportunity with that, potentially with the new updated website we have. or exploring options for an app or something besides push notifications. So this is our first take on a strategy. Annually, you'll see here on page, I think it's 3, you have a bit of an infographic that speaks to how the strategy is developed. And we'll keep monitoring these numbers and how we're progressing through to try to get messages and communication engagement across the community.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Councillor Thompson. Then I'll get to you, Councillor Tripp. I saw your hand up.
Okay. This is wonderful. It's good to see it happening. What I'm finding encouraging too is that the participation on our surveys and people coming out to events is very good. So you know that they know they'll get some value out of these meetings, and it's not just us telling them what's going on. So I think that's wonderful. I'm wondering about for flyers. I know we're primarily interested in reaching residents, right, with this material? So would Canada Post flyers to general box offices work, or do we have to go with the addressed mail to all property owners?
So we recently tested that distribution at large through the South Flyers, and we've realized that the area of Dacre, Griffith, and Madawaska did not receive them, or most did not receive them. So we don't know where they are. So we did the mass mail out through there, but it had us testing a bit of where does it go, and the reach was not there. So we may be leaning towards more of a direct mail out to addresses based off of that. I think the Calabogie area might be a bit different. We had to deliver to Renfrew in that situation, and they go out to that area, and it just didn't make it. Yeah. So for reliability, I think it's mail out in that way. What we're finding though is the groups down different areas like that, they already almost do like mailbox mailouts themselves. So for example, the DACA newsletter is put into people's mailboxes, emailed through their mailing list. So we're poking in through there also. But yeah, we'll continue to explore. We did test it. The communities in certain areas didn't seem to get them, and they were mailed out in, I want to say, July or August.
Can follow up?
Yeah, I'm finding that interesting because the Madawaska Highlander that I own, we do regular mailouts to all of Greater Madawaska Township, and it's 19 cents each instead of $1 something. And the way we do it is the Dacre and parts of Renfrew County and Griffith. In order to get, we have to do that. They come out of the Renfrew. We have to go there. Yes. And then we go to Burnstown to get some, and then Calabogie to get. So I don't understand why they wouldn't have arrived.
I'm not sure. We paid for them, and they didn't. They were delivered to Renfrew and didn't go out. Because
you can also send them from Calabogie and pay a transfer fee to get them. So that's, I think that's something that should be taken up with the post office rather than resulting in
yeah, we'll continue to explore options.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And
thank you. Councillor Tripp, you had a question.
No, it's just echoing a comment that Councillor Thompson had. I'm just really impressed with the communication strategy and the engagement we're having with our residents, both in terms of the surveys as well as participation at the events. So we're certainly trending in the right direction with this.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns from council? No. Well, you'd mentioned something about emails and sending out flyers through email. Each Friday, our clerk, Robin, she sends something out to me saying what events are happening in the community.
This is, so what you're receiving there is an automatic from the website.
Yeah.
So when you subscribe to the website automatically sends mailouts. The old website, which I think is still active right now, is that you have to subscribe to a certain page to get that information. The new website, when it is live, which will be over the next few months, When you register to the page, you get all updates that are updated on the website versus just the page you signed up for. But yeah, subscribing to the page provides, is a weekly updates.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just thinking that's something that I've signed up for, and I think some other councillors have signed up for, and we're just thinking that that's it might be a good venue to attach it to or have some link to it as well, because it's actually people who are wanting to know
Yes.
what's going on and have signed up, so. Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions, comments, concerns? Pose the question, all in favor? That is unanimous, so carried, thank you. We'll now move on to 9.2, bylaw 62-2025, being a bylaw to establish a debt management policy. Resolution, please.
That council approved bylaw 62/2025, being a bylaw to establish a debt management policy, and that council repeal bylaw 23/2024.
Thank you. Mover and seconder for putting on the table. Councillor Levesque, second by Councillor Popke. Background, please. Jen?
Yep.
Okay.
So in May of 2024, Council adopted a debt management policy. And at this time, the asset management requirements for 2025 had not been completed. During the 2025 asset management plan update that we just completed this July, staff identified that the current debt policy would not be feasible based on the requirements outlined in the adopted AMP finance strategy. So the Municipal Act provides that the authority and sets limits on the municipality's ability to issue debt. In particular, it requires the annual principal and interest payments on all municipal debt cannot exceed 25% of the municipality's own source revenues. However, the proposed policy that was passed recommended that the township voluntarily limit its annual debt repayment to 15% of its own source revenues. And this internal target was intended to preserve the remaining 10% capacity to allow for flexibility to respond to emergency or unforeseen circumstances. However, following the completion of the 2025 asset management plan, staff identified that maintaining a 15% internal target would not be feasible in the short term while we are implementing our 10-year financial strategy that we developed during the 2025 AMP. So for several years, the township's annual debt repayment requirements are projected to exceed the 15% internal target while remaining within the 25% provincial limit set by OREG. So the only changes made to this bylaw are the wording in section 4.0, number 2 of the policy framework, and the new wording explicitly states that the 10-year financial strategy takes precedence. This means that if long-term financial planning requires debt servicing to exceed the 15%, that the township's permitted to do so.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? There are none seen. I thank you for this, and I know that, and I will also say thank you so that when we do get documents in front of us and we see that the changes are in a different color, it makes it so much easier for us. So I thank you for the presentation that way. And now we'll call in the question. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you. And now this is 9.3, bylaw 63-2025, recreation agreement with the town of Renfrew, 2026 to 2030. Resolution, please.
That council approved bylaw 63/2025, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the town of Renfrew respecting the provision of recreation services for the period from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2030, as attached here, and that council repeal bylaw 46/2025.
Thank you. Do we have a mover or seconder? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please.
So in August, staff presented the proposed agreement received from the town of Renfrew, and council subsequently approved bylaw 46/2025 to authorize entering into a shared recreation services agreement as ours have expired. Since that time, the town of Renfrew has identified some minor discrepancies within the agreement and has provided a revised version for consideration. The revised agreement maintains the same scope in terms of service. However, the annual cost has been reduced slightly, and the previous fixed 9% year-over-year increase has been replaced with an annual adjustment based on CPI, Consumer Price Index, capped at a maximum increase of 4% per year. So the original agreement proposed a 2026 cost of $14,933, while the revised agreement proposes a reduced amount of $14,392. So there's a minimal changes there. However, we will see future benefits with the decrease of a fixed 9% increase to the CPI adjustment. So this will benefit the municipality going forward.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I have two questions, if that's all right. One is, who initiated revising was this something we asked them to look into numbers, or how did it start?
So we were actually, when we looked at our numbers, we thought they were reasonable, and as you can see, the change isn't significant for us, but there was other municipalities that challenged the town of Renfrew and requested the reasoning, I guess, behind their cost figures and their user figures, which ended up changing the structure of the agreement slightly. So.
Okay, well, it's good stuff. Thank you. And
supplementary?
Yeah, supplementary. Second question is, this kind of falls under the Wellness Hub initiative. Is this going to be promoted when we've got the upcoming meetings? Is this something that would make sense to include?
So what we do is when we passed the bylaw last time, we promoted this piece again, we renewed the agreement. So yes, at the hub you may have, or at the sessions you may have residents speaking to that benefit. But it will be definitely resident based on discussions they have versus, I guess the session's intended more around seeking what they find is beneficial in the community than providing them with the services we have, I guess. Does that make sense? Sorry. So I'll kind of back up a bit to discuss. And so the session for health and wellness will be talking more about the health services currently provided and the services within the community. And then we'll allow residents to speak to what they take advantage of. So it's more about assessing that versus, so if we find a gap within knowledge on that, that would be a gap we want to fix versus it's not a session about all the services we offer in the community.
So it's more to find out how much they know about
yes, and what's used and what's the benefit.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns from council? No, there are none seen at this time. I have a quick question is, I wasn't here when this went through in August, obviously. Do we get a report back from the town of Renfrew on usage from our residents, or is there a mechanism for that?
Yes, so annually we request the numbers of users. The numbers are low at this point. The intent is to inform the residents that there is an agreement and you're able to use it for an in-town fee when you're using Renfrew. So it's based off users. It could be considered quite high. So we are taking, when we presented it last time, we spoke to the fact that we are going to enter into another 5-year agreement to be able to assess the cost benefit of providing that service versus in other municipalities they've done in the past where they're not in the agreement, but they may provide the resident with the difference between the in-town, out-of-town fee. So yeah, so we have the actual reports we receive and we're analyzing it as we go.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? There are none seen. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you. We will now move on to 9.4, 2026 draft budget presentation. We have our documents. I just want to confirm, Rob and Jeff, you received your electronic copies of this? Yeah. Thank you. And we have electronic and hard copies here. So I think it's now, take it away, Jen.
All right, that time of year again.
Yep.
Today I'm presenting the 2026 draft budget. In today's presentation, we'll be walking through the budget, highlighting the key components and proposed financial allocations for the upcoming year. A hard copy of the draft budget, along with supporting details, has been provided in your budget binders, and I have also sent an electronic version via email for those who prefer digital format. So we'll right into strategic planning. So as we present the 2026 budget today, we want to highlight how the budget has been carefully drafted with our long-term strategic goals in mind. Throughout this process, we focused on ensuring that key elements are addressed and that we are building on the progress we have made today towards achieving our objectives. As you'll see in the budget presentation, these strategic priorities have been effectively integrated and many key initiatives are already on track to be fulfilled. Sustainability and responsible growth is at the heart of our strategic plan, and we recognize the importance of growth management, balancing development and preserving our unique identity and natural resources. For 2026, we have modernized and streamlined processes. So we're going to have the replacement of the township's computer server. We're going to continue regulation of short-term accommodations. We're developing a Calabogie secondary plan, and we'll have the implementation of the community improvement plan. Improve the health and well-being services offered to residents to align with the community needs. We'll be continuing to contribute to the health services reserve for future needs. We're implementing the seniors active living program, and we're expanding recreation programs across the township. And we remain committed to efficient and effective governance and long-term financial planning. So we're creating a culture of continuous improvement and accountability. We're responding to and planning for future infrastructure needs by increasing contributions to reserves for capital infrastructure. And we added a contribution to an election reserve to plan for future election expenses to reduce the impact on the tax levy in one particular year. And we've also added a contribution to reserves for positive assessment growth to help fund future operating and capital expenses. We've implementing the liquid calcium to provide a more efficient method for dust control. So every year we kind of go through how the budget process works, but for those watching today, when preparing the budget, staff carefully reviewed a range of factors to ensure responsible financial planning, and these factors include reviewing prior year's expenditures by analyzing previous years to identify trends, efficiencies, and areas where improvements can be made. Detailed budget analysis, conducting a line-by-line review of the operating budget to support informed decision-making based on accurate and ongoing financial data. New projects and financial impacts, assessing new initiatives and capital projects, including their impact on the tax levy and long-term financial sustainability. Priority setting, so distinguishing between essential needs and non-essential items to ensure that resources are directed toward the most important municipal services and projects. And service levels to ensure that townships maintain or where needed, ensure that the township maintains or where needed improves the level of service provided to residents. We also make sure that this aligns with our township plans by integrating long-term strategies such as the strategic plan, asset management plan, and development charge study to ensure the budget reflects and supports the township's broader goals and future growth. So some of the 2026 municipal pressures include the increased contribution to infrastructure and the funding gap, mandatory fire regulations. They seem to be regular now that they have these regulations in place. Increased operating expenses, decreased building permit revenues, increased insurance costs, increased debenture expenses, and no reassessment of CVA. So in 2025, the township finalized its asset management plan, which recommended a 3% increase in taxation revenue to maintain existing infrastructure and close the funding gap over a 10-year period. When I say increased contribution to infrastructure, I'm it's based on what was recommended with the asset management plan. So we go into property assessment. CVA has been continued to be delayed. There's been no indication on when this will be updated or if it will be changed. So the property assessments for 2026 are still based on the fully phased-in value of 2016. So the Township of Greater Madawaska's 2026 property assessment primarily is 96.95% residential assessment, meaning that our tax base is predominantly residential. The current value, again, is based on 2016 values and may not fully reflect current market conditions. So when we talk about municipal tax rate increases, we potentially need to understand what the impact of a 1% municipal tax rate increase will provide the municipality. And a 1% municipal tax increase will provide revenues in $46,525. So the 2026 draft budget reflects a levy requirement of $4,888,849, which provides additional levy revenue of $288,204 compared to 2025. The levy requirement results in a municipal tax rate increase of 4.72%. This 4.72% increase aligns with our 10-year financial forecast developed as per the asset management strategy that we completed in July. And when we think of this 4.72, again, the 3% is the recommended increase for our capital infrastructure. So 1.72% is for operating needs. Ensuring a balance between current financial requirements and long-term growth strategies is important for the community's overall well-being and future sustainability. So by investing in both our immediate needs and future planning with growth and strategic goals in mind, the township will create a more resilient and thriving environment for its residents. So how does a 4.72 municipal tax rate increase affect ratepayers? So we've developed this chart to show you the difference between assessment values and the annual or monthly increase. So a house valued at $200,000 would have a municipal tax increase of $48.01 annually, or $4 a month. Whereas a higher assessment of $600,000 would have an annual increase of $144.04 and a monthly increase of $12 a month. So as scary as 4.72% sounds, when we look at it, we're hoping that it's financially feasible for residents. So this chart has been included to demonstrate the township's current and proposed residential tax rate compared to neighboring townships. The residential tax rate is reflective of different services provided in municipalities. As you can see, the 2026 municipal tax rate for Greater Madawaska is still lower than the 2025 municipal tax rate with comparative municipalities. And so you may question why the Greater Madawaska's tax rate for 2025 is lower than most nearby municipalities, because the township has a larger overall assessment base compared to the amount of money it needs to raise through taxes. This means that the township can collect funds it needs for services while keeping the rate lower, as the tax burden is spread across a larger overall assessment base. The mix of residential, commercial, and resource properties also helps share the cost more evenly. In addition, the township's ability to maintain moderate budget increases and utilize grants and/or reserves has limited the amount that needs to be collected for property taxes. So together, these factors allow Greater Madawaska to maintain a low tax rate while still providing services and maintaining infrastructure. So our overall budget, our overall operating revenues expected for 2026 will be $7,782,408. 73.89% of this will be generated from taxation. 10.41 will be generated from federal and provincial grants. User fees and charges, 9.24%, and other, which is agreements with maybe neighboring municipalities and mutual aid agreements, so on, 6.46%. Our operating expenses, as we run a balanced budget, are $7,782,408. The breakdown of operating expenses by department is illustrated in this chart. Overall, the increases can be seen across the board with higher increases in public works and community services to consider a full-time position, a permanent position for SELC and recreation programming, as well as an increased contribution to reserves and a new contribution to capital for positive assessment growth, as well as that we've added in the annual contribution to an elections reserve as well now. Moving on to capital revenues. So for 2026, the capital expenditures expect to be $1.436 million. These will be funded from the Capital Works Reserve, levy-supported debenture, DC funds, OSA funds, and gas tax funding. So of the revenues generated, you'll see in the chart, sorry, that was the split of them. We'll go on to the capital expenditures. So of the $1,436,136, we are spending 60.83% on roads, 3.32% in equipment, 0.8% in environment, and 6.13% on facilities, and 28.86% in fire. And we will go into further detail further in the presentation. So move on to details about our operating budget. So our total taxation revenue will increase by $286,346 from 2025. The levy increase includes a 4.72 tax rate increase and a 1.48% growth in assessment. And payment in lieu of taxes and property tax PIL expenses, PIL accounts have been adjusted to reflect this as well. And we move on to corporate services. We have a decrease of $74,479. And the revenues for penalties, so we've adjusted revenues for penalties and interest. They've increased and we've adjusted them as per trending. A decrease to bank interest due to lower interest rates. We have an increase this year, good news, for our OMPF of $88,600. There's adjustments to wages and benefits that include employee agreement adjustments, COLA, cost of living of 1.5%, and progressions along the pay grid. The audit fees have decreased slightly as per the results of the final audit RFP that was awarded this year. And there's just minor operating adjustments throughout. So as we move on to protective services, there's an increase of the budget of $15,270. These would just be for fire services alone. So there's a slight change to other municipal to reflect mutual aid agreements. There's a new line in the revenue for smoke alarms and carbon dioxide. Again, wages and benefits for progressions along the pay grid and COLA. And a continued contribution to training and staff development to reflect mandatory training requirements to be completed by the end of 2026. And then again, some minor adjustments throughout. So under policing, we expect an increase of $73,989. The increase, although these numbers have not been released yet, the township budgeted an additional 11%, as indicated as the cap for the billing for 2025. So, and then we also have the Police Services Board. So the township budgeted an amount slightly lower than last year based on communication from the Police Services Board that last year's costs were a little higher because they didn't know what to expect. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So under Public Works, we have an increase of $70,749. And to go into detail of that, there's increase to other municipal for shared services agreement with North Frontenac, wages and benefits with a COLA and pay grid progressions. The transfer to internal labor to capital roads projects. So this amount varies every year depending on our annual capital project replacement. There's decrease in overtime based on trending, an increase to dangerous tree removal for some planned work on Byers Road. There's an increase for dust control to account for liquid calcium application. There's an increase to routing and sealing to allow for competitive pricing and increased project volume. There's a decrease in brushing to reflect more performing in-house operations. There's an increase in line painting for additional road painting planned for 2026, and then there's just some minor housekeeping throughout. So as we move on to environmental, we have a decrease in net operating costs of $43,913. Of these, there's adjustment of revenue for the circular materials agreement that you've seen today, presented to you today. There's addition of revenue for the new hauling contract with Millers. We have removal of revenue for the Ontario Stewardship Fund, which has been retired in June of 2025. There's new revenue for degassing of fridges at the landfill. There's slight adjustment to Black Donald transfer site tipping fees, and there's wages and benefits for progressions and COLA. And there's some adjustments to engineering and contract services to reflect the new awarded agreements that were awarded just this fall. And there's an increase to Mount St. Pat contract services grinding to reflect operational expense for the construction of waste grinding. We move on to facilities, and we have an increase of $38,511 as net operating costs. Our rent revenues have been increased slightly based on individual agreements, and we have wages and benefits, progressions along the pay grid. We have insurance. Insurance is increased by 2025 actuals plus 10%. There's an increase in cleaning supplies for the addition of portable washrooms. There's an increase to facility utilities for utilities expenses related to DACA and Madawaska Hall that were previously paid for with COVID funds. There's an increase to boat launch expense to maintain 3 docks and 4 boat ramps, and there's just minor adjustments throughout buildings due to efficiencies. So under community services, we have an increase, a net operating increase of $45,375. The financial statement in your binder will look slightly different from last year's. Staff reorganized costs associated with communities, funds that support community groups and contributions, and costs associated with enhancing township-run community programs and activities. So in 2025, the township was awarded the Seniors Active Living Grant, and as mentioned, a budget has been created to allocate the funds and expenses as necessary for 2026. The township's strategic goal was to provide an increase to service to residents relating to programming and activities for the health and well-being of residents. So as a result of the township being awarded the Seniors Active Living Grant, a position was created to be dedicated to SELC, as well as an opportunity to assign staff to township programming. So a wage and benefits budget was created to reflect the new program. And as part of the township's strategic goal to maintain well-being of residents, the township continues to contribute to the Health Services Reserve to focus on the future needs of residents. And rec programming The partnerships have been adjusted to reflect user agreements with the town of Renfrew. As we move on to planning and development, our net increase is for $35,093. And building permits have been, we've decreased them this year to reflect fewer permits issued in 2025. Staff cannot predict what the market will do in 2026, so we have reduced this value to remain conservative. In this area, we've also adjusted wages and benefits, a decrease of revenues and expenses to reflect short-term accommodation licensing units, and just minor adjustments throughout to reflect operational demands. Let's move on to non-occurring. These non-occurring expenses are expenses that are one-time projects that are not capitalized. There's no net difference. We'll get into this section includes non-reoccurring items like plans, reviews, and projects that are not considered capital or annual operating. So in 2026, we have included the following items. We've included the finance system for a new server, a computer server. We've included the Calabogie secondary plan, and we've included the 2026 municipal election. So these projects listed above are funded through remaining modernization funding, parkland reserves, and levy stabilization. So our reserve contributions, this one's nice to see. We're increasing our reserves by $166,387 compared to 2026. You can see that our contribution to the asset management plan, $519,772, which is in line with our target of the AMP. We have a contribution to reserve for debt retirement of $144,076. This will help offset future debt costs. And then we have a contribution to reserve for growth. This is where the positive assessment came in. So this one's new this year, $67,878. And we have a contribution to reserve for election. So when we come to the next election time, we will have the funds to pay for it. And a contribution to reserve for health services of $30,000. So the 2025, I say it over and over again, it identifies the annual infrastructure a deficit of $1.5 million. To address this deficit over a 10-year period, the AMP recommended a 3% annual tax revenue increase dedicated to funding the township's asset management plan. This budget does this. For 2025, the contribution to Capital Works Reserve has been increased accordingly, resulting in a total contribution of $519,772. And sorry, I'm repeating myself because I already had this conversation in the previous slide. I just got ahead of myself. So we'll move on to cost of borrowing. The net cost of borrowing is an increase of $89,834. This is due to new debentures issued for 2025 capital projects. So debt related to the development charge portion of Madawaska Road principal and interest will be supplemented by the DC Reserve with a contribution from reserves of $203,291 for 2026. In 2026, a new debenture will be added in the value of $461,785 to assist in the funding of the $1.4 million in infrastructure replacement. So on to our capital projects. So this is all the capital items that we are in our asset management plan that we have recommended for 2026. There was one item from the asset management plan that was shifted from 2026 to 2027, and that was, sorry. That I'll discuss later in the presentation. Okay. I'm drawing a blank, but sorry. I do have it here. Okay, so we'll start with studies. So we have planned $65,000 worth of studies. This will be our DC study that I mentioned earlier today, and engineering and design of $15,000. We have a roads total of $828,136. We have vehicles and equipment of $26,000. We have a facilities budget of $85,000. We have a fire budget of $400,000, and we have a recreation budget of $20,000. Okay, so we move on to the some of the roads, capital project highlights. So Graphite Bay Road, the work involves brushing, ditching, new culverts, pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and installation of new LCB, and the total length of the project will be 3.1 kilometers. There's a picture here to show you where the works will be completed. We move on to Kennedy Road. So the work here, again, will involve brushing, ditching, new culverts, pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and installation of new LCB. And the total length of this project will be 1.1 kilometers. And it's identified in the map as you see on your screen. We have Wolf Rapids Road and cul-de-sac, and the work involves pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, installation of new LCB on road, and paving the cul-de-sac. And the total length of this project is 450 meters. And we will be doing work on Cooper Hill, and the work involves pulverizing old surface treatment, adding gravel, and installation of new LCB. The total length of this project is 230 meters. So the project that was pushed to 2027, it was a roads project, and it was Highland Creek Road. That one we financially wasn't, we had to shuffle some more priority items that were fire related. So that one will be done in 2027. It's feasible at this point. We spoke with Steve, and the road, they were able to add some gravel, and it seems to be in fairly good shape that we can delay it by 1 year. So we're going to move on to debentures. So with the proposed budget, we will have 8 debentures as provided in this table. The interest rates are starting to decrease and assist with the cost of borrowing. The loans have been incurred to bring roads, vehicles, and equipment up to date, which align with the asset management plan. The 2026 capital budget requires a debenture of $461,785 to fund capital projects. Our total debt as of December 31st will be $4,679,689. So the 2026 debenture proposed will have principal and interest payments of approximately $66,000 for 2027 and declining for the remaining 9 years. I'm sure that's a question that you're asking, how much more. We've already talked about our cost of borrowing increasing this year. It will increase by $66,000 in 2027 and will decline in 2029. We're going to have 2 debentures fall off. You will see that in your debt schedule in your binder, and that will definitely assist keeping the payments level. So until the township builds the reserve funds to adequate levels, debentures will be required to fund capital projects. This fully aligns with our 10-year financial forecast that staff completed as part of the 2025 asset management plan. The SCBA equipment has already been approved by council in 2025, making this a committed expense. And as a result of increased costs and new projects required for fire department, the Highland Creek Road was shifted to 2027. Delaying any other capital project roads could be considered. However, it's not recommended for certain projects due to the deterioration of assets. And we're also fully within our budget for the capital items. So development charges, the development charge reserve fund is currently in deficit due to significant growth-related projects that need to be completed prior to development charges being collected. Based on projected estimates, staff anticipate that this reserve will recover from its deficit and will be able to fund the proposed principal and debt payments in the future. So until 2022, we've had this discussion that development charges were significantly undervalued, which reduced the township's ability to fund growth-related projects. But in 2022, council approved the higher development charge. Again, we'll be revisiting this in 2026, our DC rates, and we'll be working with consultants to develop new development charges to be implemented in 2027. As we move on to our reserve and reserve funds, so the reserve schedule summarizes the township's reserve balances. The 2025 balance reflects the contributions from the 2025 operating budget and reductions for reserve-funded capital projects. An estimate for the 2025 surplus has been included under other specified. According to the reserve and reserve fund policy introduced earlier this year, the township is close to achieving the $360,000 target for the working fund reserve. The township also meets the $500,000 minimum requirement for the capital works reserve and exceeds the $100,000 target for the levy stabilization reserve, primarily due to last year's contribution from policing services. So the positive assessment changes due to growth are included in the contribution to capital works reserve for 2026, and the new reserve fund for future elections has been added to stabilize the levy requirement for the cost of the election every 4 years. So this shows that we are starting to follow and implement our policies and protect the financial stability of the township. So there were some councillor requests received over the past year for additions outside the AMP. So for consideration for 2026 and beyond. When I present today's budget of a 4.72% increase, these do not factor in these requests. Over the past year, several community enhancements have been identified by councillors that are not in this budget or the 10-year financial forecast for asset management. The following items are to present options to council if they wish to consider these items and the financial impact. So we do have Canelli Mountain guardrails of $100,000. If we were to implement this year, it would cost a 2.15% municipal tax rate increase. We have Griffith light poles. There's 3 of them for estimated cost of $60,000. This would be a 1.29% municipal tax rate increase. We have digital signing, the estimated cost between $35,000 to $45,000, anywhere between a 0.75% to 0.96% increase. And there was also talk of dock expansion to the Madawaska Street dock to allow bigger boats to come in and dock. The estimated cost was $29,500, and this would be a 0.63% tax increase. So alternatively, council could direct staff to consider them within our 10, if you did not want to have any further of a tax increase, council could direct staff to consider them within the 10-year financial forecast, which would spread the cost of the increase to our contribution to reserves annually. So our next step. So council has their packages today. If we could review and provide feedback, questions are to be submitted to the treasurer by December 3rd. There will be a special council deliberations on December 11th. We will review any questions and responses and discuss further the budget in this meeting. If we require further meetings after that, we will add them, and otherwise we have a tentative date to adopt the budget on December the 18th. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much for putting this together. And once again, it's an excellent package and a lot of work went into it and a lot of time, and we can tell. And it's greatly appreciated. Is there any immediate questions right now from council that prior to taking time to go through this all? Is there any overall hierarchy questions that you'd like to see? Councillor Levesque.
I'd like to also thank Jen for this work. I know there's a lot of work went into it. A lot of people were involved, I'm sure. Regarding the school and county taxes that will consult in actually be presented together with all of this, when do you expect that to be done?
We usually don't get notification of any increases for education or county until usually the spring, around March, I would say that we're notified. I think the county's been a little earlier. They've been really, it used to be April and now it's March, but sometime around that, we don't know what their increases will be. We're fairly early in the game yet, so there's been no indication. Everybody's kind of just feeling out where everybody's tax increases are going right now. Yeah, I can't give you an answer on what the county or education increases will be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I can't see if Councillor Tripp, do you have any questions at this time? Councillor Poppy, any questions at this time? Councillor Thompson, any questions? No, I just, I guess a request, or if it's going to be a pain in the butt, I don't want you to do it, but if it's easy to do, just on our operating expenses, are we able to have just the wedge in there to say what council's cost is? Is that possible? I just want people to be able to see it in the same pie chart as all the other expenses, because people will say, well, some people have no idea what the remuneration is we get or anything about it, and I just I'm wondering whether it would be beneficial to have it in there.
I could add it, but it's so small with the piece of the pie that's probably not even going to really show on the chart, because compared to the expenses of all the other departments, it will be just a small sliver, but yes.
That was kind of what I was getting at, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's easy to do, yes, please. But if it's not, then don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We do break that down, I believe, in our information, where do your taxes go?
Yep.
So residents are able to see the breakdown of that there as well. And it actually, I think that ratepayers see more of that newsletter than
this.
but yeah.
Okay, perfect. Anything else before we move on? And this was a information session for us today. So we have our deadlines, comments back in by December 3rd, which is 4 days before our Santa Claus parade, so you shouldn't have any excuses. All right, well, thank you very much for this, and as I say, once again, we're spoiled, but I'm not going to tell you that out loud too many times. Thank you. We'll now move on to committees. Let's start with 10.1, the Library Board. Councillor Thompson.
There's not much to report at this point. The outreach is continuing. It's unfortunate, though, that the outreach that was going to be at the Calabogie market was freezing rained out. So, and they're working with finances to get the final figures for the budget. But other than that, it's going well.
Good. And just on that note, the market will take place after the Santa Claus parade on December 7th.
Ah, okay.
So it's going to be a full day. So your Santa Claus parade, I believe, starts at 1, and then the market opens at 2. So it'll be in the afternoon, and it'll be along with all the festivities, and you can come and get your picture taken with Santa.
I'm sure I would have been informed of that at our next meeting, but this is good to get the inside.
All righty.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No, thank you, Councillor Thompson. We'll now move on to Recreation and Culture Committee. Councillor Levesque.
Not a lot to report. Since the last report, though, there was the event at the Heritage Park for the Great Pumpkin Walk, which was really well attended. And I think there was a lot of people that participated, not just locally, but a few out-of-towners as well. So we had a good time and looking forward to the next year's event. And hopefully it'll get bigger as years go on. There were some judging of pumpkins and whatnot, so people had a good time with that. Other than that, the committee meets on the 2nd of November, and we'll be looking forward to what the winter programming will look like as well. So stay tuned for that. That's it.
I think you mean December 2nd, was it?
Sorry, December 2nd, sorry.
Okay, perfect.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns from council? No? And at Heritage Point, the pumpkin festival was fun, and thanks for serving the apple cider. It was great. All right, we will now move on to 10.3, South Ottawa Valley OBP Detachment Board. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you. And keeping in line, I too will keep this brief. The board is just finishing off its financial assessment for the 2025 period. Notice has been sent out to all of the mayors and CAOs on the 2026 budget, as well as a brief update in terms of the activities of the board. We are going to end the year with a rather significant surplus. There was just some operational challenges in getting our mandates met under the legislation, so they'll be pushed forward to 2026. Those funds, once we have an accurate number from our paymaster, will be rolled in as a surplus for the 2026. So indeed, the numbers, as we talked about in our budget here, across all municipalities will be significantly less, taking advantage of the surplus from our 25 year. Also notices were sent out offering an opportunity for a representative to come and address council on the board, should the seven municipalities wish to access that offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? No, there are none seen at this time. Thank you, Councillor Tripp. We'll now move on to 11.1, support of National Building 2+1 Highway Program, Highways 17 and 11. Resolution, please.
The council support resolution number OPCC 2508-112 carried by the council of the corporation of the county of Renfrew on September 10th, 2025, endorsing the adoption and phase implementation of a 2+1 highway program on highways 17 and 11 as a nation building project, and that this resolution of support be distributed to appropriate ministries and government representatives.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. The background information is all in our package, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we've all had time to review it. I'm getting by the shaking and the nodding of heads that yes, we all have. Does anybody need background information read out to them at this time? There are none seen. Is there any questions, comments, concerns from council? Councillor Thompson.
And I just want to mention that I had to look up what is a 2+1. So if I did, I'm thinking we might tell everybody else what that is. I think it's a great initiative, but maybe.
Well, you looked it up.
I looked it up.
Okay, so my interpretation of a 2+1 is there's some parts of the highway that will be 2 lanes, and then we'll switch back into one alternating, is what my understanding of it is. I think that's probably in the simplest of terms, and confirmed. Is that what your understanding of it is as well?
Well, my Google said that it was 3 lanes of highway in some sections, where the middle lane will be going in one direction for about 5 kilometers, and then or however long, and then switches that the middle lane now goes in the opposite direction. It sounds lethal, but I'm sure they've got a way of figuring that out, which is really a lot more economic than having four lanes for that whole. But I think as a nation building initiative, it's really important that the CNL Labs is on the route, and the forces base and the nation's capital, and those routes go toward the north where we're putting in vital infrastructure with the Ring of Fire, et cetera. So I think that's explaining in brief the nation-building piece. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you very much. We will now move on to section 12, 12.1. Enter into a closed session. Resolution, please.
The council meeting of November 20th, 2025, enter into closed session at 4:10 p.m. pursuant to section 2932 of the Municipal Act regarding security of a municipal property, specifically IT services, personal matters about an identifiable individual, specifically CAO performance review, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by municipality, specifically township vested property.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Levesque. All in favor to move into close? That is unanimous, so carried. We'll be going into close. Thank you. Is Sean? 13.1, move to open. Resolution, please.
That the council meeting of November 20th, 2025 move back into open session at 4:45 PM.
And do we have a mover? Counselor Popke, second by Counselor Levesque. All in favor? We are in open, and I believe rise and report 14.1, resolution, please. I believe you have them.
That council reports the following as a result of closed meeting item 1, security and municipal property, specifically AIT services, information item. 2, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, a township vested property. 1, that council directs staff to proceed with the sale of the township vested property and the write-off of the remaining tax arrears as discussed and closed. And 3, personal matters about an identifiable individual, specifically a CAO performance review, that council direct Mayor Weir to proceed with CAO performance review as per the report discussed in closed.
Thank you. I need a mover for that, please. Counselor Thompson and a seconder. Counselor Popke. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Counselor Levesque, are you frozen?
I put my hand up. Can you see me?
Okay,
yeah.
we can see you now. Okay,
All
great,
right.
thank you. So that is unanimous, so carried then. Thank you. We'll now move on to 15.1, bylaw approval. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw 64/2025 confirmatory be deemed read a first, second, and final time and passed by council at the regular council meeting held on November 20th, 2025.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Thompson, second by Counselor Tripp. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. We'll now move on to 16.1. I call this the Thompson adjournment. I would like to move on to motion to adjourn.
That the regular council meeting of November 20th, 2025 be adjourned at 4:47 PM.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Thompson. And do we have a seconder? Counselor Levesque. All in favor for adjournment? That is unanimous, so carried. Take care. Thank you.